right, let's get started here. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Paycheck Protection Program, better known as PPP Loan Forgiveness webinar. We want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their day to attend this webinar. We know there's a lot of noise out there about how the loan forgiveness is going to work regarding your PPP loan, and we hope by the end of this, we make things a little bit more clearer for you. Want to let everybody know that at the end of this webinar, we will be sending the recording to everyone. So in case you get disconnected, it will be emailed over to you. Today what Pursuit will cover is we'll inform you who exactly is Pursuit and what our relationship is with the SBA. We're going to guide you through the whole process of how to apply to the loan forgiveness. And then as well inform everybody of how the loan forgiveness is calculated, what could affect the loan forgiveness as well. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Chris Levy. A quick little background on Chris. Chris started as an intern here about 10 years ago and has worked extremely hard over his career here at Pursuit and is now Senior Vice President here. And he has been the heart and soul of this whole PPP program of creating the application you went through and the whole process that everyone has experienced. And I personally like to thank him for all the hard work he's put into this. And, you guys are in good hands going forward. So without further ado, Chris Levy.
Thanks, Justin. I'd just like to reiterate what you said about thanking everybody for taking the time to listen on this. Our goal here is to really make this process as simple as possible on you guys as the borrowers and the small business owners. We appreciate everything that you've done to keep things going with your business, and we hope that we can be there to support you as you recover through this crisis. So first, just wanted to start out with a little bit of background about Pursuit. Most of you had probably never heard of Pursuit before applying for this PPP loan. We are a non-bank lender. We primarily focus on small business administration, SBA loans, and we work with banks to help small businesses obtain financing in real estate, equipment, working capital, debt refinance, and other business purposes. Obviously, we have been very active in the Paycheck Protection Program. We've partnered with a number of banks to help their customers along, and then have also received funding ourselves to be able to provide PPP loans directly. Throughout this process, over the last couple of months, we've approved over 5,000 loans for over $435 million for small businesses. What is important to note is that the loan that you have, the PPP loan, is with Pursuit. It is not anything directly from the SBA. We are the lender of record on the transaction. All of your loan documents are with us. And the SBA is just out there to kind of provide the rules and regulations of the program, which us as the lender must follow, and then you as the small business borrower must follow as well. For the loan forgiveness aspect of the program, we will be responsible for collecting your application for loan forgiveness and submitting that to the SBA based on their rules and regulations. So you will conduct all of your business through us. Your application will be made through us. It will not be made direct to SBA, and it'll be very similar to the original loan application process that you went through. So just kind of pointing out what our role here is and how you as the small business borrower interacts with us, Pursuit, who is your lender in this transaction. Throughout the loan forgiveness process, we're kind of taking a very slow, guarded approach so that we can help maximize your loan forgiveness, but also minimize the level of difficulty that you have to put yourself through in this process. As you are all probably aware, the SBA has rolled out this program very quickly. There was not been much lead time at all in regards to the guidance and the regulations that they provided, and it's also been constantly changing throughout the past couple months. We expect the same is going to be true with the forgiveness as well, and that's why we're being cautious with the information that we provide and making sure that we're giving you the most up-to-date guidance and that we're also providing correct guidance. We do not like to speculate on the rules and regulations. We like to wait until SBA provides them in their final form so that you as a business owner can actually move forward in the right fashion and not be subjected to changes throughout the way. We expect changes. We expect things to improve and the SBA to provide looser guidance that makes it easier on the small business owner. But we just want to caution you to be aware that changes likely will occur throughout the way. So that leads to my big point here. Do not panic, be patient. Rules are going to change, more guidance is going to be provided, and the rules are going to evolve over the next few weeks. As some of you likely know, the SBA did release the borrower application for the loan forgiveness. That came out last Friday evening. However, they have not provided any additional guidance on for the lenders on how we actually submit it to SBA or the protocols for this submission process. It also is somewhat loose on what documentation requirements need to be submitted and what need to just be retained by the business owner. So we know that further guidance is coming, and at this point we're going to present to you what we know now, and then along the way we'll provide additional information to you. Another important point that we want all of our small business owners to know is that there are no experts out there in regards to PPP. Everybody is receiving the information at the same time. It's being sporadically released by SBA and by the Department of Treasury, and there's nobody with more intimate knowledge than others. So anybody that's out there touting themselves as an expert, or you can pay them to help maximize your loan forgiveness, just be careful who you're working with and who you're getting yourself involved with, because the rules are the same for everybody. The rules have been released to everybody at the same time. There's nobody that has an inside track or inside knowledge on how to go about this process. So be aware of that. Be aware of third parties who claim that they have more knowledge or can assist you in facilitating your loan forgiveness, because that just really isn't the case. As I just mentioned, the SBA released their loan forgiveness application. This contains the instructions for you as the borrower, and also has a calculation form and calculation worksheets. If anybody has looked at this, frankly, it is daunting. It's 11 pages with all sorts of definitions, rules, calculations, and if I were a business owner looking at this, I would be a little bit scared. What our job here at Pursuit is going to be is make this as simple as possible on you. We do not want you to feel overwhelmed by this application. We do not want you to feel like you have to try to figure this out and solve this puzzle right now. We want you to hold tight. Don't feel like you need to fill out the form, and continue to operate your business in the fashion that you have been in the past.
So Chris, a lot of applicants, a lot of borrowers have been asking, what should they be doing right now? With the lack of guidance that, out there right now, what should borrowers be doing, as far as keeping documentation and stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you guys, or you business owners, applied for the loan. You provided documentation regarding payroll to get this loan in the first place. Continue doing what you were doing. In the past, you would keep all your business records. You wouldn't throw out your payroll report after you paid people. You wouldn't throw out bills and not keep record of it. So just continue what you're doing from a record keeping point of view. And that's going to be available for the loan forgiveness application. So keep doing what you're doing. Focus on running your business and hopefully bringing it back as parts of the country reopen over the next few weeks. And our application is going to make it as simple as possible on you so that we're able to get the information needed for SBA to get you the full loan forgiveness, but also allow you to continue operating the business and not have to worry about a daunting application. We've received lots of questions such as, the application shows the lender PPP loan number. What is that for me? We don't want you to worry about those things. Don't bother asking us those questions. We will fill out those sections of the loan application for you so that you do not have to worry about those things on your own. It will be very similar to the original application where you did not fill out any forms, did everything online, and then at the end when you went to finalize everything, you signed those forms via DocuSign. We're going to be doing a very similar process to that. We'll be developing that over the next few weeks. In addition to that, and some of you are already aware of this, we're going to be creating a share file document upload portal for each of your businesses. This will allow you over that 8-week loan forgiveness period to upload any documents related to the loan forgiveness to, for one, help keep yourself organized, and also have easy ability for us to obtain the loan forgiveness documents so that you're not going at it 8 weeks from now and trying to do it all at once. We'll be sending out emails with these links over the next couple weeks to each of our borrowers so that you can upload all the documents for payroll, rent, utilities, and mortgage interest as you pay them. We will send periodic updates to remind you to upload these documents throughout the forgiveness period, and we will also keep you informed of any updated rules and regulations from SBA as they come out. We have also created a special loan forgiveness page on our website, and you can visit that at any time for the most up-to-date information. We have all of the various guidelines that have already been released from SBA up there, and we'll be posting any new guidance that comes out as soon as we have it available. Many of you also probably have specific questions about your business and how the program works. We will have a frequently asked questions page as well that we're working on putting together right now. We'll have that up and running as well for various questions that come in, and a question that is common will be able to be answered on that page to help all of our small business borrowers. Now we're going to transition into actually talking about the loan forgiveness calculation and how that is going to affect your business. The SBA uses a term called the covered period, and this is the 8-week period following the initial disbursement of the loan. This is a period where expenses that you incur will be able to be forgiven after that 8-week period. The expenses that are forgivable include payroll costs, rent and lease payments, utility payments, and mortgage interest payments. As you all should be aware, the payroll costs must account for at least 75% of the expenses that are incurred by the loan proceeds and also as part of the loan forgiveness application. One of the key aspects of this is that loan forgiveness can be reduced if there's a reduction in the number of full-time equivalent employees or a reduction of more than 25% in wages. We're going to get into more specifics on each of these topics over the next few slides. So the main thing to talk about in regards to the covered period is what is the definition of that and how do you use it to your advantage to maximize the loan forgiveness. In general, the covered period is the 8 weeks following the first disbursement of loan proceeds. SBA in their loan application has also provided an alternate payroll covered period. This is to make it easier and more convenient for borrowers who have a biweekly or weekly payroll periods so that they can maximize the forgiveness and not be trying to figure out, okay, this was 2 days of the covered period, but it was only one payroll record. It'll just make it much simpler for our borrowers. So, for example, if you received your PPP loan proceeds on Monday, April 20th, but the first day of your payroll period is Sunday, April 26th, you can use an alternate payroll cover period beginning April 26th, and the last day of that alternate payroll period would be Saturday, June 20th. This will allow you to fully include each payroll cycle within that covered period, as opposed to jumping across various periods. So this is a nice wrinkle that SBA added to the application that'll streamline the process and make it more convenient as you're calculating the forgiveness amount. Payroll costs are obviously the main focus of this program, and the calculation for payroll costs in terms of the loan forgiveness is the exact same calculation as it was when creating your initial loan application and determining your initial loan amount. So this includes salaries, tips, vacation, healthcare, retirement, state and local taxes. The maximum amount of compensation for any individual employee or owner is $100,000, and federal payroll taxes cannot be included, nor can compensation to an individual whose principal place of residence is outside the United States.
Hey, Chris, just want to jump in here real quick. A lot of applicants have asked me, what exactly is compensation? Is that just salaries paid to the employee? Does that include health benefits? Like, what exactly is the $100,000 cap for the compensation?
Yeah, so there's kind of two answers to that question, Justin. The one thing in regards to the maximum of $100,000, this is their annual salary. It does not include benefits, healthcare, and stuff on top of that. That is just their base salary, cannot exceed $100,000. So if there are healthcare, retirement costs that are above that, that is okay to include. In terms of who qualifies as an employee and what payroll costs can be included, this does not include people that are independent contractors who you may pay a 1099 to. This only includes the traditional W-2 salary type employees who are actually getting a wage from the business. You cannot include 1099 employees.
Great. And while we're on this topic, you had mentioned before that the borrower is going to be required to use 75% of the proceeds of the PPP toward loan forgiveness. What if they didn't reach that 75%? What would happen?
So it is a requirement not only for the forgiveness aspect that at least 75% has to go towards payroll, but also just in general that of the total loan proceeds received, 75% has to go towards payroll. So it is a requirement that it goes that way, and if you do not use 75% of it, you will not be eligible for loan forgiveness. So it is critical that you pay attention to this and utilize the loan proceeds and the forgiveness application towards payroll costs. Right. The other big topic is what happens with self-employed individuals. Typically, these are people that may file on Schedule C of their personal tax return. They may be a one-man or one-woman operation, and all of their compensation is earned through the profits of the business. There is not a true salary that is taken by the self-employed individual or an independent contractor. So similar to the way that the payroll costs and the loan amount was calculated on the initial application, the loan forgiveness is calculated based on the net profit and self-employment income earned in 2019. The SBA is categorizing this as owner compensation replacement, and it is calculated as the 8 weeks worth of the 2019 net profit of that self-employment earnings. So this is calculated as 8 divided by 52 of that total profit. This equates to a maximum forgiveness amount of a little over $15,000 per individual. The way that you kind of think of how it works is it ends up being 75% of your loan amount, which was 2.5 times your average monthly, and then the 2 times would equate to 8 weeks. So it all kind of works out that you're essentially automatically getting that 75% taken care of, and it's going to be automatically forgivable. There's not additional documentation that is needed for self-employed individuals to calculate that amount. Another big question that we constantly receive is what happens if you cannot open the small business due to government restrictions? Obviously, there are a lot of stay-at-home orders in place and different phases to how the economy is going to reopen over the coming weeks and months. Unfortunately, there are no rules in place at this time for an extension of the covered period, which is 8 weeks right now, or any exceptions made for businesses that cannot reopen. There are talks throughout Congress with the Treasury Secretary about making amendments to the regulations to extend the forgiveness period. There's been talks of potentially extending this to 24 months compared to the current 8-week period. Again, we cannot provide any guidance on if this is going to occur or any business advice on if you should, bank on this happening, but it is out there. So we're optimistic that change will be made to help businesses that cannot open due to government restrictions, but we recommend you remain patient and kind of go through this process with open eyes, hoping that things will change, but also recognizing that they may not, and the rules in place at this time are an 8-week forgiveness period. There are a few instances in which your loan forgiveness can be reduced, and these are obviously major sticking points for businesses that either cannot legally reopen or just don't have the volume because of all the restrictions in place in order to justify having a full staff in place at this time. So we're going to kind of go through what the rules are and how forgiveness can be reduced, and then we'll talk about some ways that you can potentially maximize the forgiveness amount. So there will be a reduction in your loan forgiveness based on the number of full-time equivalent employees that is reduced. So you will have a baseline calculation, which is detailed here on this slide. You can choose one of these periods depending if you're a seasonal or non-seasonal employer, and then you will compare that to the amount of full-time equivalent employees that you have during the covered period. So if you were a business that had, using the first calculation here from February 15th to June 30th, 2019, if you had an average of 100 employees, but during the 8-week covered period, you only had an average of 75 employees, you would only get 75% of your loan able to be forgiven. This was Congress and the SBA's incentive to keep businesses at full employment. Now, there will be ways to kind of work around this, which we'll get to in a second. The other reduction to loan forgiveness is if wages are lowered. And again, this is a calculation based on the prior average salary for an employee as of February 15th, 2020, in comparison to their annual salary or hourly wage during the covered period. If there's a reduction by more than 25%, meaning that if somebody was making $100,000 prior to as of February 15th, and then you reduced their salary down below $75,000, that would be a reduction by more than 25%. That would cause a reduction in your loan forgiveness amount. Now we get to the area where SBA is allowing for businesses to kind of counteract these regulations. There is a safe harbor provision that allows employers who restore their employment levels and salary levels by June 30th, 2020 to essentially not have to worry about those two prior slides where we talked about the reduction. The slide here actually has a typo. I apologize. It should be June 30th, 2020, not June 20th, 2020. So if by June 30th, if you have returned to full employment, meaning the same number of full-time equivalent employees, and also the salary level has been returned back to the same level as of February 15th, 2020, you will not be subjected to any clawbacks of the loan forgiveness. So it's very important that borrowers pay attention to this. It gives you the opportunity to kind of ramp up your employment levels and hopefully get back to that full employment level by June 30th in order to ensure that there is no reduction in your loan forgiveness amount. So then the question becomes, if unfortunately you are unable to have your loan forgiven, what happens? So there is partial forgiveness. You may not be able to get 100% of the loan forgiven just based on the expenses, but you can get the loan partially forgiven. Whatever amount is remaining after we apply for that loan forgiveness with SBA will remain a loan that needs to be repaid. The interest rate on this loan is 1%, so obviously a very low and attractive rate. There are no payments on the loan for the first 6 months. This means no principal or interest paid during that initial period. Following that, there is an 18-month repayment period of the principal and interest with the interest calculated at 1%. So whatever is left over, you will repay over time. You also have the ability to prepay the loan in full at any point, and there are no prepayment penalties related to that. So kind of a piece of advice, if you want to utilize as much loan forgiveness as you can, and then instead of keeping the loan outstanding, if you want to use whatever left money is to pay off the loan, and not have to worry about it, that is perfectly okay, and there's no penalty for prepaying the loan in full at any point. So many borrowers ask, how do I maximize my loan forgiveness amount? We're going to provide as much information in terms of the rules and regulations that we can. Unfortunately, since we're your lender, we cannot also be your business advisor. We cannot sit here and tell you, I think you should hire this many people back at this date or offer this many people salary compensation. Unfortunately, that's not our role. We're going to provide as much information and guidance based on the rules and regulations that SBA offers as we can. We recommend you speak with your accountant, business advisor, attorney, or your local small business development center for some of that business advice, and they can help work through some of the guidelines and whatnot from SBA and how it specifically impacts your business. Again, continue to keep adequate records of all forgivable expenses, and prepare yourself along the way for the forgiveness application. The one other area that I'd like to touch on is a frequently asked question about unemployment. So many people are also out there getting unemployment, and they may not want to come back to work because they can either make more on unemployment, or they just see that as a better option, and they may be nervous about the working conditions, or just in general being outside their quarantine area. So the SBA does state that if you offer an employee the opportunity to come back to work or to continue working and they decline it, you will not be impacted in terms of the forgiveness amounts. So you will not be have any of that loan forgiveness reduction that we talked about in the prior slides because of an employee not wanting to come back to work. So that is one key piece of documentation that you do want to keep on file because it will be part of the forgiveness application. So have it in writing that you offered the employee to come back, and have them decline it and keep that on file. That concludes kind of the main segments of the webinar. I hope that everybody can visit our website, which is pursuitlending.com, for any additional resources that we have. Like I said before, we have a dedicated loan forgiveness page, which will have all the various guidelines and will be up to date with the current information. If you have any questions, please send them to loanforgiveness@pursuitlending.com. Like I mentioned, we cannot be your business advisor and help you determine what you should do from a business perspective, but we can help articulate the rules and regulations as they are presented to us at this time, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. We appreciate the questions, and like I said, we will be putting a frequently asked questions page on our website. So any questions that you have, do not hesitate to reach out to us and ask. The last thing I'll say is there are still plenty of SBA funds available for the PPP program, and we are still actively making loans to businesses. Many of them may have had difficulty borrowing from the banks, or just may not have a traditional bank of account where they can obtain a loan. So if you have friends, colleagues, family that may be in the business of looking for a PPP loan, feel free to point them our way. Your referral will receive an access code immediately after signing up, and they'll be able to apply for the PPP loan immediately. The program is open through June 30th or whenever the SBA runs out of money, whichever happens first. So I'd like to just conclude and say thank you for taking the time. We hope that we can be here to help you, and as your business reopens and everything, stay safe, and good luck reopening your business, and we hope to maximize